What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the Flat Earth Debate community, go to nathanoakley.com and join the community forum to keep up to date with the community Flat Earth Debate. And if you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join this discussion right now, live, then simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are currently joined by Sleeping Warrior and Karen B. How are you both doing?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm alright, like, really well. Oh, that's good. Well, good to have you both.
Sorry.
Why
The postman just came and the puppy was attacking the post. I had to intercept. Anything that comes through the door, puppy thinks is hers and she eats it and attacks it and kills it, and it's no good when it's like letters and stuff. We're out with housekeeping now, have we?
From yesterday, Karen. So you're gonna be well familiar. Any signs of curvature?
No.
No. None.
Nope.
Signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Definitely no axis.
Mm-mm. There's actually less signs of axial rotation than there are of curvature, if that's even possible.
Well, yeah, because you need an axis to rotate on, right? We see things spinning in the skies. Oh, must be an axis. Really?
Did you both see Joe Nissam's video how Einstein made the Earth spin?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I did.
Very good video.
I had no idea what transform equation was until watching that video, so my hat is always tipped to Jaren because he does, give you genuinely new information. Maybe I should know about what a transform equation is. I'm sure the intellectuals out there would say, whoa, don't you know about this? It's like, well, not only did I not know it, I didn't appreciate that that's where you get, time dilation and, crazy stuff that is described in many a sci-fi fantasy or actualized in a sci-fi fantasy, and it's just mathematical nonsense. But yeah, definitely no signs of axial rotation. What about the distance to the sun?
I don't think we can throw rocks at the sun, Nathan. I don't know how anybody knows whether it's real, physical, tangible, physical goodness or not. So I don't know how anybody can plot it. But assuming that it's like physical, the maths wasn't enough according to Aristophanes when he did his wells thing. Neil deGrasse says that he needed at least 3 wells. But even if he did 3 wells, there's too much for the distance to the sun to be able to conclude anything. No, there is no distance to the sun as far as I'm concerned because it's not a tangible object.
I agree.
Well, certainly Chris, hopefully he'll be on the panel a bit later. He normally joins maybe on the second show. Has asserted that he's not so sure and at least wants to have a little look at it. Now, I've done this myself. I can't remember who was around. I don't know if you were around back then, Karen, to do sun tracking. But
I was.
No,
That's how I know the sun can't be triangulated.
Well, I would agree, but having attempted it myself, using Google Hangouts and multiple mobile phones across the plane, I would completely agree. But there's still the assertion. I think somebody came on the other day with a flat earthy type assertion about it. Musicians for Truth, Jason, formerly Synthetic Dread, and he basically gave the flat earther explanation using assumptions of azimuthal equidistant projection layouts of the land. But yeah, he asserted the usual flat earth rhetoric. No need to make this claim, but he did. 3,000 mile sun and 30 mile or whatever it is diameter. Hello, Chocolate saying.
Good morning. Good morning.
Chocolate.
Good morning, chocolate.
The reason I bring that
Karen.
up,
Happy
just talking about
Valentine's Day,
distance,
Karen.
just talking about the distance
Thank
to
you.
sun chocolate. I'm saying the reason I bring it up is because you get this, which is why I'm trying to drag you immediately into this conversation. That there's no need to make the claim. So we don't need to assert how big or where the sun is or anything about it in order to demolish the current assertions of a 93 million mile sun. You can just smash it based on its non-validity. So that's precisely what we do. Whereas I'm quite interested to see somebody who is a quote-unquote flat earther, and as time goes by I'm starting to think I'm not one of those people when assertions like this get made. But to see a globe head pummel it, you know what I mean? Somebody comes along and says, well, it's 3,000 miles away. You go, okay, right, well, I'm just going to sit back right now and watch you get your head stoved in by somebody who has a different fantasy to assert.
Yeah, I would never make that claim because it doesn't matter if the Earth is flat or round. You can't triangulate the sun. You can't do it. Can't be done.
Only
Just the fact that there's an apparent sun versus where the actual sun is should tell you that from here, as an observer, you can't triangulate the sun.
Do you want to explain what you mean by that when you say that an apparent sun compared to an actual sun?
Well, in the globe model, if you just do a search on apparent sun, it tells you that there's like a 2-degree difference or something. I forget what it is exactly between where the actual sun is and where you are visually seeing the sun in the sky. That's what they tell you.
Something to do with refraction and the length of time it takes for the light to leave the sun and get to you, right?
Right.
Correct.
Well,
I mean, these are the nonsense assertions within the heliocentric model. What we would just say is it's an intangible object. So how are you going to verify its position, its width, anything about it, if it's intangible? Well, you can't.
Mm-mm.
Well, moving on.
Yeah.
Any evidence that we can have a gas pressure without a container for all those fantasists who believe in a vacuum of outer space?
Well, did you notice what Conspiracy Cats did in his latest video? Well, not Conspiracy, Baldy Cats. What he did was he swerved the gas pressure point, and he made the whole video all about energy loss caused by the sun and when the sun's not in proximity. And basically, he says that when the sun's not in proximity, there's not enough energy because the energy is lost because it's not being excited by the heat. So that it basically sticks to the Earth all by itself. That's basically what his position is. His default position is that gas pressure will stick to the Earth. And it's the sun exciting it caused by energy and massaging of the energy by the sun waves that makes it all escape because it excites the molecules. Apparently, that's what his position is. Doesn't mention gravity, doesn't mention entropy. Pretty bad, actually, but that's what he says.
Yeah. Proving that you can have a gas pressure without a container by virtue of a verbal and pictorial description of a second law of the thermodynamics doesn't count. It just doesn't cut it. So that I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, but no, that is definitely not a demonstration of gas pressure being maintained without a container.
It is a lovely story, though.
A beautiful,
I was going
lovely
to ask
story.
is all that happening in his little box that he drew?
It only
That's
happens in
container.
maths. It only happens in maths and on paper.
Right.
Doesn't happen real world.
Turned you up a bit,
Come on,
Chocolate.
Karen.
We're cutting you off because we don't know when you finished because you're a bit quiet, but I've turned you up now. Hopefully the hangout won't talk over you anymore. I'm sorry.
Sorry, who was that to? Chocolate?
Yeah, just a bit quiet. I get
Chocolate's
into
always
the
quiet.
routine of who to turn up and who not to turn up, but I've turned him up now. I forgot. Anywho, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
Nope.
A little bit of seismology.
Okay.
The reliable thing it is.
About the presupposition of an R value. Any evidence of that?
Only on a pizza. There's no R value to a ball.
No. What about scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
Do you know? It's got
Nope.
the gravity point's so convoluted now. It just basically confuses everybody because everybody thinks it's something that's not, and nobody thinks it is what it is. And some people think that there is something that might be similar to it, but it's not actually. It was caused by something else. The bottom line is, who cares what people claim, right? Demonstrate that it's true. Otherwise, it's just another story.
So check out my video that I just released on the National Geographic piece. I'm not sure when it came out. I'm sure it's probably quite old now. It just played on an autoplay while I was doing a bit of housework. So, you know, I happened to be listening to whatever I was listening to prior, and then that popped up. So I ended up listening to it whether I wanted to or not. And, you know, I thought, okay, well, let's actually listen to this. I've seen several response videos, but not the actual video. So I'd kind of got an idea of what to expect. I didn't know that they'd completely removed the balloon bit. Obviously, I'd got a vague notion of them doing something with balloons and people seeing it from the shore with P900s where it should not be seen. But nonetheless, it didn't twig until someone mentioned in the comments that they just completely ignored that. I mean, my point being that they're saying we flat earthers are ignoring empirical scientific evidence. And that's a very specific and detailed thing to say that we're ignoring. And they have none. They definitely don't have any scientific evidence for any of the stuff that they assert in the show. And the person they refer to is a pseudo-scientist. He's an astrophysicist. He's not adhering to the scientific method, but yet that's her go-to, to then falsely accuse flat earthers of ignoring empirical scientific evidence, of which they have absolutely none, as we well know. So they are liars on National Geographic. Flat earthers, if I am to be considered one, do not ignore scientific evidence because you have not presented any scientific evidence. Merely your demonstration of how you swindle the general public into believing that you have empirical evidence by simply asserting that science is what you have when you do not. Bunch of liars.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. You look at what's going around and all the this preponderance of evidence in support of the heliocentric model, and none of it sticks. There is no science at all. It's all pseudoscience, and all that pseudoscience is being taught to kids, your kids, everybody's kids, and basically people don't realize that it's pseudoscience. They are being deceived, but it's dressed up as science. And how dare you challenge science?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a journey that not only National Geographic get dragged through the bush on, but a lot of flat earthers also. I mean, over the last 6 months, maybe a bit longer, I've been tentatively and then a bit stronger towards recent days explaining this exact problem to people who assert they have science when they're on the flat earth side, because it's a double-edged sword and we're all guilty of it for the same reasons. We were all in the Western education system and told in a very short period of time that A, science is empirical and proves stuff. True, does, correct, absolutely. You know, they explain the method and why it's empirical. And then immediately start to brainwash you with molten iron cores and pseudoscience in a science lesson. So you're left in this state of cognitive dissonance, quite literally, as a consequence of them basically double talking you, telling you that science is empirical, telling you that it's got a method and why and how it's empirical, and then immediately saying, and this is also science, this non-empirical observation and conclusion religion. You know, it's a bit of an outrage, and this is fundamentally the problem with the education system and a lot of flat earthers in the aftermath. So yeah, they might appreciate that they've been lied to and that the earth isn't actually a ball and obviously and observably flat, and they might appreciate that all aspects of perspective are ignored from the curve calculations that replace perspective with curve. They might appreciate all of that and yet go forth to try and explain this to somebody else and say it is scientifically proven that, and then give an observation that a flat earther has made of a lighthouse like this. So I could say, look, I've got scientific evidence of the earth being flat. No, I haven't. It's an observation. It's a concrete noun. It's not a phenomena, which is what they would claim when they try and explain how it's a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena. But we who claim science incorrectly should also have our heads chopped off. In other words, we are as guilty as they if we start to claim science where it is not. Ultimately, it's just as easy for me to pull apart National Geographic based on its non-scientific validity as it is to pull apart a flat earther who does the same. But why have your head chopped off when you're just looking at something? Make it... It's, in my opinion, far stronger to say, I just see that lighthouse. And when they say, well, what's the reason? What's the cause? Well, because I've got eyeballs. Because I can open my eyes and look at it. There it is. No further explanation required. It doesn't need science for the observably bloody obvious. Whereas they claim they need science. They claim this is a phenomena. They claim it's looming. They claim it's all these nonsensical things that they just assert because they have a predetermined religious belief about Earth being a sphere. In essence, a model. A reification fallacy. We don't live on a model. The heliocentric model. It's impossible to live on a sphere. That's not where we live. The Earth's obviously and observably flat. But when we're told by National Geographic, having been swindled at school and double spoke into, misunderstanding what science actually is, when some blonde on a program sat next to a pseudoscientist says, flat earthers ignore empirical scientific evidence, you think, well, look, she's got a scientist next to her, so clearly she's right and they're wrong. It's like, well, no, they haven't presented science, so how can we possibly be ignoring empirical evidence? Nobody in their right mind or sane mind would ignore empirical evidence, right? That would be insane. But they're not presenting empirical evidence. They're definitely not presenting scientific evidence. What they are presenting is akin to what the pseudoscience astrophysicists do, which is look and say, this is what I see, this is what it is. Look, it compares to this. Spectroscopy being the greatest example.
Have you seen QNF's latest video about how you can detect the rotation of the Earth in your kitchen?
No.
Basically, what he gets is like an angled set of scales that are on an angle of about 85 degrees, roughly. And he gets a weight on a string suspended above him, a bit like a pendulum. And he measures the force that is being pushed against the scales whilst the scales are facing south. And then he spins it round and goes north. And then he claims that you can detect the rotation of the Earth just by changing the orientation of your scales. And I thought, I wonder how you knew that it was that and it wasn't something else. It's interesting.
And he's
Sly Sparkane's jumped all over it, telling everybody how he got a fantastic result and he's going to do a bigger version of it in the next couple of days. So let's watch for a bit more bullshit coming out of the bullshit detectors.
Yeah, ultimately we'll end up
QNFE supposed to be a flat earther or no?
Sorry, Karen.
I thought he was. I didn't realize he was on. I'm not sure what side he's on, but I've seen videos that go pro and against. So I'm not really sure what his position is, to be honest. Yeah.
Well,
it's
if
interesting, though.
Saying that a pendulum proves the rotation of the Earth, I'd say that's against.
Well, it's not the pendulum. He's measuring the weight of the pendulum, the centrifugal force, apparently, which apparently is actually a pseudo force, which I learned the other day.
Yeah,
Shout out to it. But Jose's saying play his new train track video. Have you seen his train track video, Nathan? It's basically terrible for the ball. You know, this curvature that Jose thinks that he sees. He's watched a train disappear off into the distance over the train tracks. It's quite a long one. If we could speed it up, it would be easier. But it's not supporting sphere. It's supporting that things appear to go into that vanishing point and then just it all goes to shit. But that's supposed to be the curve. Maybe. I don't know. It'd be better if Jose joined and then he could talk us through it, to be honest, rather than just play it.
Well, Jose's a fairly regular guest. I'm sure he will. He gets a lot of crap off us because, and I'm sure, Chocolate, you'll back me on this, right? You don't stab your mates in the back. You stab him in the front. In other words, when he's doing this, it's literally heartbreaking because he considers us his mate. We consider him our mate. And he's stabbing us in the front, right? So it hurts that little bit more.
A little bit, yeah. I gotta say that. It sucks, but I respect that he wants to feel how he feels. So just the extra bit that it comes with kind of just things a little bit. to see somebody throw away critical thinking. That's how I see it. That's me.
If you want to join and you haven't got a link, you just have to refresh. So you've obviously joined before it was published. Just refresh the page and that should bring the link up if you can't see it. It sometimes, when I start, it wipes the link for some reason. I've never figured out why that happens. Yeah, refresh. Make sure you mute your watch page before you join.
Want to give a shout out to Red Pill and his debate yesterday, which wasn't really a debate. It's kind of a slaughter, but yeah, shout out to Red Pill for that. It's awesome.
I'm yet to see it. Was it good?
I found it really hard to watch, personally. Mostly because God was engineered.
I don't know why. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hello, Mark and Paul. Good to have you both.
Hello, ladies
Yeah,
and
I'm in now. I got it.
hi, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello, Eric.
So, Paul.
Can you hear me?
Is that Eric?
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, all right, just making sure it's working. All right.
You're just a bit quiet. Yes, we do hear you. Good to have you all.
Okay. Thanks.
It just seemed kind of crazy. He was unable to get in. That's what I was wondering what was going on. I thought some fishy was happening.
For some reason, when I stream on this channel, it's just that little bit more glitchy. So, for example, when I stop the stream to have a little break, get my kids a drink and things, I go back to the live stream, start 5 minutes later, and the chat stops working. You know, on the other channel, the link would regularly disappear. It doesn't do it all the time here, but sometimes I go back. It's just in the info box, so you just expect it to be there. But there we go. I don't know, just strange things that happen with Google Hangouts. It's a hodgepodge of about 20 different programs all bundled into one, so it's a bit twitchy.
Oh, just I don't know if you're aware of this. Somebody told me that it looks like they may be decommissioning Google Hangouts. I don't know if you're aware of that. Thought I heard something about that or read something about that on Google.
Yeah, they've been saying that for about 5 years. What they are getting rid of, as I understand it, is G+, which is the social networking side of the Hangouts software, as opposed to the live broadcast side. Now, they may get rid of the Hangouts on Air section that we use to host these, where you're in now chatting, but that's easily resolved. There's a dozen other programs that can, you know, substitute it. I like it because it's nice and simple for people to join with just a YouTube account. But beyond that, it's not that big a deal if that goes either, because YouTube will still allow live streaming via OBS or whatever you've got. But it seems unlikely, in my opinion, that they'll just abolish this particular piece of software because it is intrinsically linked to all of their live streaming services, including the mobiles. Have any of you had, I'm sure you have, tried to join a link with a mobile and you just get sent to a random room, and then you'll be in the random room thinking you're in the right place and someone else will join the random room?
Yeah, that was happening to me the last few days. I kept having to try to do it several times. I was at somebody else's room using your Hangout. And I'm like, what's going on? And finally, I would eventually get in.
Okay.
Yeah, him and I were together, so.
Yeah, I've had people tell me, they go, oh yeah, I just spent 10 minutes chatting with this other person in the other room. And you're like, what other room? There's only one link. Can't be two rooms. We're in the one that's broadcasting. Where are you? Well, in the other one. What other one?
The mobile one. Hello.
Every time I try following the link on my mobile, it takes me to the Google App Store.
Heard that one too.
Yeah, you'd still go through the process. Just open the App Store and then go to the app, and then it should just open, and then it'll say which account do you want to use if you've got more than one.
Well, actually, the way I'm sorry, go ahead, Karen.
I was just going to say, there's that weird glitch too that drops anyone who's on mobile in the Hangout. They just drop them out.
Yeah,
the way I've happened to me in the middle.
The way I've resolved it on the.
You're breaking up.
The way I've resolved it. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep talking over somebody. The way I resolve it on my phone is I'll just actually open up the browser and then go into the settings on the browser and change it to desktop, and I can jump right in. I've actually got in that way, just using the browser on the phone, but changing it to a desktop browser instead of the mobile browser.
Then you're lumbered with tiny little icons, little desktop icons on your mobile, right?
Yeah, and it's also hard to kind of mute and all that other stuff too because it's so small.
What happened to the guy yesterday? I was kind of half on, half off listening yesterday, but the guy that was trying to cite Cavendish, what happened to him? Did he get kicked in the end, or did he leave?
He did get kicked in the end. I was going to ask the opinion of the panel in that regard because I get 50-50 opinions in terms of how I deal with people. So Dave Murphy yesterday said, just let him get to the end of his nonsense and then rip it apart. Now, some people would say, or have said specifically, don't let them carry on with their nonsense. If they start to assert nonsense or start answering a different question, stop them and point that out immediately. Don't let them spend 10 minutes going on some tangent. If they're not addressing your question, say it straight away. That's the one opinion. The other opinion is, as Dave Murphy said, let them get to the end of their nonsense. In my opinion, I will express it, which is going to bias the panel, but I'm just can't help myself. In my opinion, the former is obviously what I do, but the reason I don't do the latter is because guys like that will just rumpus the hangout indefinitely, if need be. So which is right?
I completely agree with.
Or let him get to the end of his
that,
bullshit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's it. I'm done. Sorry.
No, I was going to agree with that because, he came in with nonsense, stating that gravity is a law. And then the first thing we asked him was, all right, so where's the proof of that? And he goes into other nonsensical things, talking about lead balls in nature hanging from strings. It's like, dude, where do we see that in nature again? Thanks.
The only I guess I would say to that myself is I think there's a balancing act. Like sometimes when I first started listening, I'm like, wow, Nathan is going off on hard and heavy, and really, that might turn people off from coming in. And I know why you're doing it, but that could be a turnoff. So if there's finding a balance between disproving or dismantling what they're saying, and not berating them at the same time. So that's the hard part. I think you're trying to find that balance between the two is kind of critical. You do listen, which is, I'll give you that. You do, even though they may be going off and you're going off on them, when they say something that's good, you stop and say, no, what'd you say? And you actually hone in on that, which is good. You're trying to find that balance between not berating them and not letting them get away with it.
Yeah, definitely Nathan's not found that balance yet.
Oh, gee, thanks.
He's learning. No problem.
I agree, Anthony. That's why I'm saying it, really.
The next question, I suppose, is like, how do you deal with a problem like conspiracy cats? Because it's weird. On the one hand, he's literally he's pissing lies in our face and smiling and chuckling as he does with this affable, friendly kind of approach, but he's still lying. So what do we do? Do we crucify him, or do we just ignore him, or do we just, I don't know, what do you do with somebody that's pissing it in your face and laughing as he does?
I think your video you did yesterday was actually a good way of doing it. You actually broke it down. You stopped it. You really didn't go after him hard, but you did try to, say where, okay, this is right, but this is wrong, and walk through that process. I think that's one good way. But obviously trying to do that with him on air directly, that's a whole other issue. I was listening to Red Pill's debate with the Godless, whatever that guy is, and I was listening, like, the one problem I always see with the globe side is that they can't, you're right, they can't acknowledge can't accept anything. They can't even admit that we're right on anything. If they do, that means they have to start questioning themselves, and they can't do that. They won't do that. But I don't know how you'll do that on air. So.
And I think that's why Nathan loses his cool, because when you're asking these guys questions and they keep dancing around it and don't want to answer the questions, it's frustrating after a while. You can't have a discussion like that if you can't agree on certain things and come to certain points. And
I completely agree. What do you do? And at the end of the day, you can't force them to accept your view.
Yeah, and the hardest part is they come in with this attitude of, well, I'm going to put you on game on what's going on. Like, no, guy. To come in and just run. There are plenty of other platforms you can go and do that, but we don't deal with that here, and that's just it.
Yeah, I think well, you got to decide, don't you? You got to decide: do you accept that you disagree and do it politely and respectfully, and nobody really pricks their ears up because it's a friendly disagreement, or do you start chucking rocks and stabbing him and attacking him and making him uncomfortable because, and then you risk the perception being that you're going in too hard, but the reality is that he's pissing lies in your face and laughing while he does it, in the name of being affable and friendly and approachable and a teacher. But the reality is he's literally pissing lies in your face, and you don't realize. It's bad.
Yeah.
Hey, Anthony, have you seen Nick lately? Hello? Riley.
I think he's probably taken a phone call. Do you mean the Nick that's currently in the chat asking if somebody mentioned stabbing?
Yes, that Nick. He was in Arwen's chat this morning saying Earth is flat and where's the curve? And NASA says Earth is flat for 60,000 miles. And he's saying, and I can't tell if he's serious or not.
It was definitely
I can't tell if this is a new way to troll or if he's serious.
Lottie's been doing the same thing for about 3 days, so maybe this is like a new troll tactic.
That's what I'm thinking.
They want to be flat earthers for a few days. Then that's out. Guys, so
got a terrible connection, Chocolate.
No, I'm at work all the time.
That's right. Probably next Thursday sometime.
I think it's funny.
What you just said.
I'm sorry. I think it's funny because I hear Orthodox does it and said it, and I even had my brother say this to me. And I think it's funny that they think we're doing this for, oh, you're doing this just to be famous, or you're doing this because you want to do money, or you want it. I'm going like, really? And I think, I've heard Orthodox jump in and say that to you and everybody else, and I'm going like, how? Why would we want to get berated? Why would we want this for money? And it just, I think it's so funny.
To be honest with you, if you wanted to be a YouTuber, right, you wouldn't pick Flat Earth because it's a very small niche area of the internet. There's not that many people in it. It's growing and it's becoming more attractive, but it's definitely not something like the likes of football. I mean, I was watching, for example, I'm a Liverpool fan, but I was watching a United fan thing last night when they were, because they got beat 2-0. It might have been the night before. And because they got beat, like literally, he was only on less than 1 minute. And he had 1,500 live supporters or 1,500 live watchers watching it. And that was in the context of football within a minute. It's the same for computers. It's the same for cars. Flat Earth, you might get 100, 200, 500, but you're definitely not getting big figures. So if you wanted to be a YouTube star, you wouldn't pick Flat Earth to do it in because the subject matter it has no money. But interestingly and conversely, you tell me a baller that's not monetized. The only one that I can think of, and it might not even be true, is Red's Rhetoric. But all of the others, including Conspiracy Cats, are all monetized. So who's the one that's trying to profit out of this? Is it Flat Earthers or is it them?
Me. Smash the super chat if you're watching this on the premiering streams on Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980. Join my Patreon. There's a million ways to pay me, as Tim Wilson would put it.
Plug.
Yeah, Nathan, let's see your bank account, man. Let's see where that money's really flowing in.
Yeah.
What? You want to see my overdraft?
I'm joking.
Yeah, it's obviously at the point where it's getting saturated for the ballers now, and I don't know. I can't understand how it's possible that these guys can criticize us for the money side of it when we all. I mean, I don't earn anything out of YouTube. I don't, and I know Nathan doesn't earn enough for what he puts into it. Ranty doesn't earn enough. But then you go and get someone like Greater Sapien that does a GoFundMe for $20,000, I think it was, or $10,000, and then pockets the money and no one says a word. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. You're all moaning at us for £3 a show or whatever it is. And then just the Greater Sapien does that and no one bothers about it. It's like, everyone seems to have forgotten about it, don't they?
I think that's the nature of things, that we have a short memory span. It lasts about a minute.
Oh no, you speak on a live show and that'll come back and haunt you forever. Unless, of course, you're a baller.
I'm being more facetious than anything.
Oh.
Just shout out Multi Tom Tom. Happy Valentine's to all flat earthers, he says. Okay, I'll take that back.
I think it's got
even though it's a shout out for Multi Tom Tom. A happy Valentine's Day to all, just all, everybody, one and all are welcome.
I think it's got to the point where the ballers can't come on this show anymore, Nathan, because they know they're going to get berated and raped with the reification fallacy that it is. They can't come on anymore, and they have to sit there and pretend that they're all on protest, but they haven't got any evidence to support their nonsense, but they still push it.
And back to what Karen was saying about Nick in the chat. He and I think Lottie have both got the same idea, which is if they say some of our rhetoric, in their mind, it's sarcasm. In other words, look how stupid it is when I say it. And often it's like when Lottie does it especially, he hasn't quite got the nuance of how to do that. In other words, he's just speaking sense, but thinks it's sarcastic and condescending as a result, when it's just sense. But there we go.
I'm not familiar. You'll have to give me an example. I missed it. I was doing something.
Well, if you just there's something like there's no scientific evidence for the globe, and you're like, excellent point, Lottie.
Yeah, I get it. So he's missing not the context. He's missing the presentation, and he's actually arguing our points for us.
Precisely. I mean, Nick's better because he's using some Chris Monk quotes. I mean, if it were me, I would actually put quotes around it and say who said it and the year. But there we go. That's just me. You know, so saying something like research diamagnetism and flat Earth, and I'm pretty certain that's a direct Chris Monk quote, is it not?
I have no idea. Could be. Not heard his name for ages.
Which is slightly better, but still pretty weak.
Yeah. Well, if there's anybody out there that thinks they've got evidence supporting a sphere, do drop by and let us have a look. Because, I mean, how many shows are we on now, Nathan? Is it, what, 700 and something?
I think this is like 715,
716, I think.
717 we're on. 77. So we're on 717 shows, and we haven't seen anything. There is zero evidence, that literally nothing about this ball. You would expect this to have been over and done with by now if it was the case truly that we were all pissing in the wind. But it clearly seems to be the case that 700 shows in, still not any evidence whatsoever to prove axial rotation, curvature, gravity, gas pressure, center of the Earth, radius of R, all them things in housekeeping. They can't come in, they can't defend it because they've got nothing other than stories, and we can see through the lies now. And it's, well,
I do have some evidence of no curvature, if willing to let me give a little bit of a presentation.
Definitely.
So this is involving Jose's Kema Lighthouse observation from 17.4 miles. Let me see if I can do this. This is my first time. Let's see, screen share, right? So
yeah, when you click screen share, you get two tabs at the top of it shows you two pages. Pick the one that says application tab as opposed to whole window, and then pick the window that you want to present. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'll just share the whole screen.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
See my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the line of sight. I basically charted out where he was observing all the way to the lighthouse. And this took a little bit of work. So what I did was I figured out the elevation along the line of sight the whole way. And his, I think his elevation, the eye of his observation is 16 feet. And this right here, which is about 11.7 miles away, is already at the same elevation that he is observing. But we get further, and there are places here that are 12 meters elevation, and then you have some pretty tall trees, including, this is probably the tallest obstruction here, and this is 12 meters, the bottom of the trees. And these looks like some pretty tall trees. Because let me see, I've taken a lot of screenshots as well. See these trees that are even a little bit behind the Kema Lighthouse here cover about two stripes worth. So they're about 40 feet at least, because each one of these is about 20 feet. Because the whole tower is 158 feet, and it's about 5 meters elevation at the starting point. So then I did a little diagram. This is really crude, and that's why I called it crude illustration. So this is basically the effect. The bottom of the lighthouse is at 5 meters, and his observation height, because he was at 2 meters observation height, and so you add whatever height he is or whatever the viewing apparatus is. And so this is basically what's going on, is you have these trees that are at 12 meters, and they're like 50 feet perhaps. I don't really know. That's the thing. You got to, kind of make some guesses with some of this stuff, but you can see what can happen here. You can't see through the trees. So this is just definitely a rough illustration. But the other thing I did was I found an observation from Google Earth at 1 mile, which basically shows the same. So I traced this distance, and you can see the lighthouse. So let me see, I'll get a view here. So this is from 1 mile, and you have 3, let's see, I don't know how big that is for you guys. Whoops. You can only see like 3 of the stripes, and this is just from 1 mile. And so from there, I figured out the biggest obstruction is this building right here, which is about the typical telephone pole or whatever this is are 40 feet, and these are a little closer. So I imagine this is 40 or 50 feet high. Now let me see if I can explain this. So, all right. Also, this building is at 5 meters in elevation at the bottom. The observation right here is 5 meters, or actually, no, it's a little higher. Sorry, it's about 7 meters. And then the lighthouse is 5 meters. Their observation at this 1 mile mark is actually higher. So it actually makes sense that you see a little bit more of the lighthouse. And bear in mind, this is just 1 mile. So taking this as an example, this is my 17 mile kind of estimation. Obviously, it's not to scale really, but pretend this is 1 mile. So you have like a little bit higher observation, and then you have an obstruction, which is that days in, which is a little bit lower in elevation. So then let me see if I should do this in Paint, and then I can demonstrate this. Bear in mind that this is a comparison between 1 mile and 17 miles, or more than 17 miles. So you'll be having an observer height a little bit higher at 1 mile, obstruction a little lower because the elevation is lower, but the obstruction is about the height of the trees, the estimate. And this is what you're seeing, and that's exactly what you see at 1 mile. So how on earth is it possible that you're basically seeing logically the same thing if you assume you're on a plane? You're seeing basically the same thing at 1 mile as you are at 17 miles. Because the observer height's a little higher at that 1 mile observation I got from Google Earth. And the obstruction is lower elevation, so that's not going to be as obstructed. And it kind of matches, even though I'm not, it's not exact, but I did try to do kind of an approximation, but it works out. 1 mile looks pretty much what you would see at 17 miles. So it just doesn't add up. And it completely, to me, like when I was doing this, I was like kind of like secretly hoping that I could find evidence of curvature, because my brothers and my dad just think I'm going crazy, and I'm just like secretly hoping that I could find this. But then when I found this, I'm like, holy crap, I just pretty much proved to myself without a shadow of a doubt that there's no curvature. So if anybody has anything to say against that,
yeah, just make that full screen.
Sorry,
just make that full screen just before you move off this page.
This full screen?
Yeah, just so it's not a nice clear picture of what we're describing.
Yeah, so it's all like, and I didn't even account for any like distortion or anything like that. This is all geometrical and viewing angles and obstruction. That's the only thing that pretty much I counted for, and it all explained it. So it's like viewing angle and obstruction, and the elevations of the obstructions, and the thing you're viewing, and your viewing height. So it's crazy. I kind of.
Do you agree that the lighthouse looks stretched?
Yeah, I mean, you can tell it's fuzzy and washed out. You can tell it's a magnification, and it's doing weird things. You know, you can see time lapses of refraction, diffraction, all that stuff. I don't know all the right terms, but yes, that's just one example. But you can see it's doing lots of stuff, and I'm not sure if Jose zoomed in quite a bit here. So I mean, so the problem is there's a perception issue as well. So because it looks so big right here compared to the water and stuff. See, they did an overlay in the video that showed, okay, if we extrapolate this downwards at the same apparent size, it would be like in the water, you know, pretty far. The problem is if this is a magnification, the real image is actually a lot smaller. So and also, they probably used a photo of it that's also taken a lot closer. So you can't compare those images. I don't know. I think I'm done, but.
No, that was perfect. You've essentially highlighted the fundamental flaw in using these blink tests, when even the one that was presented yesterday, I believe, was so blatantly taken from beneath the lighthouse. In other words, the lighthouse itself is higher than the camera position. So you're having to look up at this bloody thing. It's towering above you with a massive angle to it. And then they blink test that with something that's miles and miles away. Like, it's an absolute outrage that the conditions for the different shots are so devoid of being comparable.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like there's so many obstructions in the path of the line of sight. So it's like, and they're also 2 to 3 times higher elevation. And then you have the trees that could be, you know, who knows how tall. So it's just, I don't know. It's become pretty obvious to me, and
yeah, agreed. It's obvious to everyone on the panel, but what enrages me is the fact that you've gone and studied the geometry. You're not even accounting for, you know, the diffraction and refraction effects as you phrased it, which is correct in Skunk Bay. You know, you've got a limitation of the angle, i.e. diffraction limit is being altered by the raising and lowering of the level of the water, combined with the atmospheric conditions, i.e. refraction changing as the day progresses. So yeah, you have got those effects that you've just ignored and just gone straight to, well, where's this stuff actually sat in relation to where I'm looking at it from? Now, that's great, but the globe heads just immediately say it's immediately. No ifs, buts or maybes, no perspective, no geometry, no nothing, just this is R.
Yep.
Yeah, and the other thing curve? I want... Sorry.
Any obstructions curve?
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify that I actually, through this line of sight, I actually... I don't know, you don't need to share my screen, but I traced the line of sight, and I figured out the elevation specifically at those lines of sight on it's maps.ie, and I compared it with Google Earth, so it was pretty accurate. It seemed pretty accurate. So I didn't just guess the elevation. I actually went and figured out the elevation all along that path. So
fair enough. Hey, Love Docs, how you doing?
You
might need to rejoin. We can't hear you. Yes, thank you very much for doing that, Eric. Excellent presentation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just one bit of critical feedback, if you don't mind. If you go onto Google Earth and when you put your line in, save the line so it goes from yellow to red. Right-click on the line, and then you can bring up the elevation profile. You could then use that elevation profile to put your scaled down picture of the lighthouse back into it, and then you'd show a more accurate, more to scale presentation in relation to the perspective of the side view profile, Muppet vision.
Yeah, well, thanks. I've been using Google Earth for like a week, so I'm very new to it. But thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, so just save your line so it goes from yellow to red, and then you just right click on it, go down to the bottom. It says elevation profile. You can do it there. Actually, is that line saved?
Yeah, I think it's saved.
Just right click on it.
Right click on.
No, on the line itself.
Right click.
Oh, right. So you're doing it on the website, right? If you do it in the app.
Okay. Well, I'll save these. I don't know if I can save this.
I'm not sure if it works on the web version, but if you do it on the app version or the proper full version of that you install.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Just try right clicking in the background there now where that line is.
That's not doing anything.
Yeah, so I guess it has to be in the app version, but
no, yeah, you've got Google Pro. The tricky Anthony. Yours is Google Pro.
Pardon?
Your version of Google is Google Earth Pro. You've paid for the professional version, correct?
No, it came with my version of Windows when I bought Windows.
Sure, but nonetheless, you've got Google Earth Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, which this is not, correct, Eric?
No, it's not.
Right.
This is the browser version.
Yeah.
Unorthodox, what nonsense are you going to tell us today?
Well, nothing as long as his mic isn't working.
Probably the best thing for him, to be honest. He's probably going to run less risk of making himself look like a dick. He's obviously trying to speak.
Way past that.
Trying to speak.
Maybe try plugging in the microphone.
Hello?
Yo.
Oh.
What was the problem?
Yeah, I just came on because I find it just absolutely hilarious, the mental gymnastics you guys are doing to deny the geometry of this situation. You have like 4 stripes missing. No, 5 stripes missing. And I mean, it's just so bloody obvious. It's hilarious.
What's so bloody obvious? You haven't actually made any assertions or claims.
Just the geometry of the situation. Like, where's the rest of the lighthouse?
Behind the trees.
Just
behind the trees. But you can see the proportions of the stripes, so you know
but
proportionally.
It's a magnification.
No, there's not. I showed yesterday or the day before. Nathan kicked me whenever I showed that the proportions don't add up. If you're saying it's compression or it's something else, then the proportions are different. But in this case, the proportions are identical, and that gives you a very good idea that it actually is below the waterline. There's no compression going on. There's no other way to explain it. The stripes specifically tell you that because you can see the specific proportions.
Can you explain why there are 4 stripes missing at a mile away?
I don't know what you're talking about. The ones I looked at was not the case at all, and I could view them quite clearly.
Okay. Well, I don't know if my.
I mean, there's any spot you can get to and point your camera in the right position where you can obscure some stripes. But
yeah, but this
right?
elevation is shown in Google Earth. Whoops. See, it's probably too small here, but this is about 8-meter elevation. And we're missing 4 stripes.
There's 3 stripes in that picture, and it's right behind a house. Yeah, notice how the proportions are in this.
But the house, it's not a house, it's a hotel, and it's about 40 or 50 feet, well, 50 or 60 feet high. How tall do you think trees are? And the elevation of those trees are 12 meters. Like the bottom is at 12 meters.
But notice the proportions here. The house takes up over 50% of the height of the lighthouse.
Yeah.
So if you rewind it back to the other picture, the proportions are way off.
Sorry, what are you talking about? Proportionality is not accounted for. This is perspective we're detailing. So you're saying something in the near foreground is bigger than something in the background? No, unorthodox. In your world, that 40-foot house is always a 40-foot house, right? Doesn't matter how far it is.
No, it changes size.
Does it? What, angular size? Well, that's not what you account for.
No, you said 40 foot, Nathan.
I hadn't finished unorthodox. So that's
you
not what you're
question,
accounting for.
So you did finish.
You're telling me, the host, when I finished, are you unorthodox, you arrogant little twat?
I can't hear you. You're half muffled, and there's a kid in the background. And you asked me a question.
Right. My apologies for other guests who've got children.
Sorry, that was mine.
Yeah, the point being, unorthodox, that you didn't actually make your assertion. You said it's the geometry of the situation. But you didn't say it's Earth curve. So you didn't make any assertions. So you're just challenging it based on its geometry? Okay, fine. So what's your actual assertion? What is your claim? That it's Earth curve doing this? No, we know. So you're not making any claims. You're just here to have a little argument then. Because so far, you're debating about the geometry of it. Okay, well, that's fine. But if you don't have any assertions of Earth curve, what the hell are you doing here?
I mean, that's blatantly obvious. Do I need to say that? I mean, this is a flat Earth debate, and I'm a globe earther.
So make
the
your
geometry
assertion
you're
then.
describing is impossible.
So make your assertion then, so I can rip it to pieces.
Well, let me pull up my picture that I got kicked for showing the other day, and you can rip that to pieces. Okay.
Hold on a second. You've said earlier that we should worry about perspective. So my question about the picture you've already presented, and the same reasons that I ripped it apart last time, are they taken from the same perspective? I.e.
They're taken from...
I hadn't quite finished. There you go again. Triggered because he knows how dangerous my questions are. So it's best to rumpus Nathan's questions, because he seems to think perspective's important, and has pulled apart Eric's example because apparently the house has got too big an angular size. It's in the foreground, right? So, my question, is the comparison that you make with your little blink test at the same perspective, distance?
Are you talking about perspective or distance? You said two different things.
Yeah, that's what causes things to have a different perspective. If you take them from a different vantage point, your perspective changes. So I'm asking you, are they taken from the same perspective or not?
Your argument is invalid because you can notice the proportions.
Yeah, you talked over the end of my question, so I'll just repeat it. I'll stick you on mute or kick you if I have to repeat the end of my question so it's concise and heard and understood by you and my audience. You will not rumpus me here. Yeah, don't rumpus my question. It will be heard and concise. Are the two pictures you're about to compare of these lighthouses, that's actually one lighthouse, from the same perspective or not?
Yes.
So you're going to show two that are both at 10 miles or two that are at a mile, correct?
Yeah, we're going to make comparisons here of the exact same image. Hold on.
Got 1 minute.
All right, I got it pulled up. Let me share my screen.
Whenever it's convenient, I'd like to ask you a question.
Okay, there you go. So you notice the proportions, how they're identical?
Sorry. The picture has got two lighthouses taken from different distances, different perspectives.
How are you going to make a comparison, Nathan? The point is that the proportions are exactly the same.
So you lied.
That's what's important.
Sorry, I asked you very specifically.
The image has proportionality.
Sorry, I'm going to kick you out. I'm going to kick you out again for the same exact reason as last time. So you've lied.
Let me finish my thought, Nathan.
So
Let me
lied.
finish my thought. I just presented this.
I don't want to listen to your thoughts. You lying sack of shit. I asked you if these were taken from the same perspective. Then we established what gives you perspective, and you said yes, they are taken from the same perspective. Now you're saying, how am I supposed to compare? So you're a liar. They're not taken from the same perspective, you liar.
They're taken from the ground perspective. The same perspective. The ground.
We just went through what perspective was. The distance would change the perspective. And you're saying because they're both taken from the ground. So you're just misrepresenting what you've actually given us, even though I gave you very clear definitions of what defined the perspective. You're a liar.
No, I'm not. It's taken from the same perspective. The ground perspective, Nathan.
You just done it again. So, because you've circle jerked me for the second time on the exact same point, I'm going to kick you out. Bye-bye. Don't circle jerk me with the exact same point. I've just demolished it. So piss off. Don't come back.
That was short and sweet.
I was going to ask him about this image from Rob Skiba's video on
Unorthodox scumbag. Just kidding. How you doing, guys?
Hey, Jose.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Can say a quick quick hello, Jose. It'll get into the end of the show.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Yeah, hello.
Very good to have you. And with that very brief introduction for Jose, I will say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience. If you're watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or the Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as the after show will follow. Unfortunately for the live audience, this is where we bid you farewell. Another massive thank you to you. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and join the community forum there. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
To analyze or break down anybody's observation. So yeah, good job.
Thank you.
I feel a butt coming on.
No, I'm not. I'm just thanking for taking time to do the analysis and the breaking it down. I cannot say in Spanish, but right. Yeah, I mean, neither or I agree or disagree.